Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Explainer. Today, we're taking some truly fascinating source material and transforming it into a direct, visual guide to help you completely master a new subject. And for this one, we're focusing on demystifying the care, the keeping, and the propagation of an absolutely incredible houseplant, the jade plant. If you've ever admired one of these sturdy, little miniature indoor trees and wondered, how to keep it thriving, or even better, how to multiply it into a dozen more, well, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. As this quote straight from our sources points out, the jade plant is quite literally a survivor. What we're talking about today isn't just your run-of-the-mill temporary houseplant that you toss in the compost when winter rolls around. No way. We're talking about a true generational heirloom. When cared for correctly, this is a plant that can actually outlive us all. It's the kind of plant that gets passed down from grandparents to grandchildren. It's just an incredibly rewarding piece of living nature to bring into your home.
Just to briefly establish exactly what plant we're actually talking about here, its official botanical name is Cressula ovata. It's a succulent native to South Africa, which honestly tells us a whole lot right off the bat about the dry, warm conditions it naturally loves. You've probably heard its popular nicknames too, the lucky plant or the money plant. Those names definitely hint at a super long history of being associated with good luck and prosperity. But folklore aside, it's highly prized by indoor gardeners just because of its gorgeous, woody, tree-like shape and, of course, that legendary longevity.
So, here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll meet the heirloom succulent. Second, we'll go over the golden rules of care. Third, we'll diagnose some common jade problems. And finally, my favorite part, multiplying your plant.
Section 1. Meet the heirloom succulent, the plant that literally outlives generations.
When you bring a jade plant into your home, you aren't just putting a decoration on a windowsill. You're adopting a lifelong companion. And because they're a lifelong companion, they have plenty of time to grow. 3. That's the really impressive height in feet that a mature jade plant can easily hit indoors over the years. Because they develop these thick woody stems and branches, they actually begin to look like tiny miniature trees as they age. And let me tell you, a 3-foot-tall succulent sitting in your living room is definitely a statement piece. But to get them to that impressive height, we've got to know exactly how to treat them.
Section 2. The Golden Rules of Care. Sustaining the Legacy.
Before we even think about watering, let's talk about light. And I'm going to tease a concept here that we're going to revisit throughout this whole explainer. The absolute biggest threat to the legacy of a jade plant actually isn't neglect, it's an over-eager owner. But let's establish the baseline needs first. 6. Jade plants need a strict minimum of 6 hours of bright light every single day. Ideally, you really want to place them right in a south or west-facing window. Why is this so absolutely crucial? Well, if a jade plant is stuck in low light, it starts stretching out trying to find the sun. It becomes what we call leggy, meaning those stems grow super long and weak, and the whole plant becomes incredibly top-heavy. Eventually, it literally won't be able to support its own weight and branches will just snap right off. Give it those 6 hours of bright light, though, and it stays strong, compact, and happy.
Okay, now for temperature. The number 50 is your ultimate threshold here. 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or roughly 10 degrees Celsius. Jade plants absolutely love the warm, dry conditions of most of our homes, and they can even thrive outdoors if you live in a mild climate. But listen up, they are totally not frost tolerant. If you decide to put your jade outside for the summer to soak up all that great sun, you absolutely must bring it indoors before those autumn nights drop below 50 degrees. If you don't, it's going to suffer severe cold damage and just drop all its leaves.
So, what does the perfect home for a jade actually look like? First off, grab a wide, sturdy pot. A heavy ceramic or terracotta pot is brilliant here because, like we mentioned, jades get pretty heavy at the top. A lightweight plastic pot is just going to tip right over the second it grows. Second, the soil. You're looking for a 2-to-1 ratio of all-purpose potting mix to perlite, or you can just grab a dedicated cactus mix. Finally, and I cannot stress this enough, excellent drainage is non-negotiable. The pot must have a hole in the bottom. Interestingly enough, jades actually kind of like being slightly root-bound, which is great because it helps keep their size manageable. You really only need to repot older plants maybe every 4 to 5 years. The huge takeaway here, proper soil drainage is your absolute best defense against root rot.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how to approach watering, which actually completely shifts depending on the time of year. During the active growing season in the spring and summer, you want to water deeply, and by that I mean soak the soil entirely. But then, you have to wait until the soil is mostly dry before you even think about watering again. But look at the dormant season in the fall and winter. You must drastically reduce the water. Let that soil dry out completely. Our sources actually note that really large established jades might only need water once or twice all winter long. Seriously, once or twice the entire season.
All right, moving on to Section 3, diagnosing common jade problems, or loving your plant to death.
We really need to lean heavily into this metaphor for a second. Overwatering is basically a well-intentioned way of killing your plant. You are literally loving it to death with that watering can. Let's look at how to tell exactly what your plant is feeling. I want you to ask yourself right now, looking at your own plant, what do the leaves look like? If it's underwatered, the leaves are going to look shriveled, kind of like little green prunes. They might get wrinkled or even develop these little brown spots. The good news, a nice deep watering will plump them right back up almost overnight. But if your plant is overwatered, the leaves become totally waterlogged. They feel squishy to the touch, and they'll just start dropping off the stem left and right.
As our source cleverly puts it, the jade plant forgets nothing, especially when you overwater it. It's a really tasteful touch of humor, but man, it is deeply true. This plant holds a major grudge when its roots are forced to sit in excessive moisture. Root rot sets in incredibly fast, and it is notoriously hard to reverse. So, golden rule, when in doubt, just step away from the watering can. It is always, always better to underwater a succulent than to overwater it.
Section 4. Multiplying your plant. How to clone your jade.
Okay, this is the really exciting phase. This is how you truly create that generational legacy we talked about, by easily making more plants. Jade plants are famously easy to propagate. But first, a quick safety warning. You've got to clean your tools. We are sharing this crucial cleanliness spiel directly from the sources. It's all fun and games until someone's calathea dies. If you use unsterilized scissors or clippers, you can so easily introduce harmful bacteria or fungal diseases straight into the fresh, open wound of your plant. Just wipe your blades down with a little rubbing alcohol before you make a single cut.
Once your tools are clean and you're ready to cut, you've got a choice to make. You can propagate in soil or in water. Now, we definitely have to acknowledge that the water method is incredibly popular online and among home enthusiasts. I get it, it's super fun to watch roots grow in a glass jar on your windowsill. However, our sources explicitly recommend soil propagation because of its speed and its highly reliable success rate. It's the standard for commercial growers for a very good reason, especially if you're doing this during those warm spring and summer months. So, the crucial point here is really just choosing between a stem cutting or a leaf cutting, and that depends entirely on your patience and what your goals are. A stem cutting is highly predictable, it rarely fails, and it yields a much larger established plant very quickly. A leaf cutting, on the other hand, well, it's a much slower process, it's a bit more prone to just shriveling up and failing, but it's absolutely perfect if you just want to watch the sheer magic of a whole new plant forming from a single leaf, or if you're looking to start a tiny fairy garden, or maybe even a future bonsai tree. Let's walk through the steps for both.
All right, here are the highly structured but super easy steps for stem propagation. Step 1. Cleanly cut a 2 to 4 inch stem just above a ring on the mother plant. New growth is eventually going to push right out from that ring you left behind. Step 2, and listen, this is mandatory. Remove the bottom leaves from your new cutting and let it rest in a warm spot for a few days to a week. The cut end literally must form a dry callus, basically a scab. If you skip this, the open wound will instantly rot the second you put it in the dirt. Step 3. Once it's calloused, just submerge the bottom 1 to 2 inches into a dampened, soilless growing mix, something like a seed starter or coconut coir.
Now, if you prefer the leaf method, the details are just slightly different. Step 1. You must cleanly snap off a single leaf, and you have to ensure you retain the little C-shaped node at the very base where it met the stem. If you don't get that node, it's never going to root. Step 2. Just like the stem method, let the leaf scab over for a few days. Step 3. Lay it flat or just tuck the very tips slightly into a shallow dish of that soilless mix. And just a heads up, the parent leaf is eventually going to wither and die off as the tiny new plant emerges from the base. Don't panic, that is completely normal.
Okay, pay very close attention to this next rule. Do not water your cuttings immediately. You have to wait until roots actually form. We really have to emphasize this. Your cuttings currently have absolutely zero roots. Because of that, they physically cannot absorb water from the soil. So if you keep spraying or watering the dirt at this stage, you're doing nothing but risking rotting the stem or the leaf. Just leave them be in bright, indirect light and be patient.
Let's move to and see exactly how this builds into actually establishing your new plants. After a few weeks, give the cutting a super gentle tug. If you feel some resistance, congratulations, you've got roots. Now you can finally water them deeply. And here's a totally brilliant tip from our sources. Use a turkey baster to gently deliver the water. That way you aren't blasting those fragile new roots right out of the dirt. Once new little leaves appear, your plant is officially established. You can go ahead and repot it into a normal succulent mix and move it into brighter light. Finally, to prevent your new baby from just growing into a single, tall, skinny stalk, simply pinch off the topmost leaves. It seems crazy, but this literally forces the plant to push out side growth, resulting in a really beautiful, bushy young tree.
So, just to summarize everything we've explored today, by providing plenty of bright light, strictly respecting their dormant winter periods by really holding back on the water, and easily cloning their stems and leaves, you practically guarantee this plant is going to outlive you. You are literally sustaining and multiplying a highly resilient, lifelong companion.
So I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought. As your single jade plant turns into 2, and then 4, and then 10, who do you plan to gift your newly propagated jade plant to? It's just such an incredible way to pass down a beautiful, living piece of history to your family or friends. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy propagating!